Are we witnessing a new phase in the evolution of Daesh, and especially in their strategy of expanding fronts abroad?
I wouldn't call it a new phase. I would call it a maturation of a strategy which is indeed looking to a new dimension in that sense. It's the same strategy which was always built on impacting, creating terror, havoc, multiplying threats, spreading the enemy as they call it. But we see it clearly now emerging more visibly in three different sectors. On the one hand, the domestic control of the territories that they have, which is the management of places like Mosul, Raqqa in Syria and so on. The second tier is the regional attacks. Remember that we had a number of these attacks over this past year in Tunisia, in Libya, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, and of course the Russian plane. And now we have the internationalization of that, the Paris attack as such.
So, what can be done against this very dangerous threat?
There's no panacea against terrorism generally, and there's certainly no panacea against the Islamic State, which is probably the most powerful terrorist group that has, even more than Al-Qaeda. What I think has to be done is fundamentally a realization that we need to have a bit of a portfolio of answers. Some things that have to be done militarily have to be done. This is how it is. There's a conflict at its heart, although it's more complex because where is the conflict? Is it in Iraq? Is it in Syria? It's complex as such. Many of the things that have to be done historically about terrorism have to do with sociological, societal dimensions, types of de-radicalization measures, type of issues that have been built onto communities, finding ways to avoid stigmatization, to avoid making the situation worse by having these operators that we see, such as in places such as France, acting, and some of it may be having to do with examining some policies that some states have to reflect on if they have worked or not. And I think this is an important dimension for France in particular, learning or not learning for that matter the lessons of post 9/11 and the Bush administration and what went through during those years, which we tend to forget, is very important at this stage.